In this video I'm going to explain how the Succession Lahn is one of the best classes in our current state for PvE and somewhat of a strong class in PvP. But before going into it, I really appreciate you guys supporting the content right now and give the channel a subscribe and like the video. Also feel free to add something in the comment section below. It really helps me out so we can continue making great videos to help the community. Check out TheChilliers streaming daily on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/TheChilliers. Let's get into it. First, I think it's important that the audience know some of the credentials before some random YouTube guy starts talking about classes in a specific way. Most people know me as the LAN player in Blackdesertonline, Pearl Abyss partner, Adventure of the Month 5 times at this point, Radiant Adventurer, Barrow Rider. Having played this class actively since release, 5 years of Awakening and a little bit more than 1.5 years of Succession at this point, I have been progressing with the LAN since the start, and I have done all kinds of content like PVE and PVP at different levels. More than 20,000 hours grinded and 800 plus node wars and sieges. I know I can give you guys a real non-biased, fact-based video of how good she is. To add to this, I also have been playing other classes, and I have learned how to do that in a really good way. Also in communication with my friends that plays different classes really good, and collecting data from skillful players making YouTube videos where you can see people gather data from different grind spots. So before going into it, I will explain two things. Normally when we talk about efficiency in PvE, it comes down to these two things: mobility, movement, stamina, sustain, and speed. Depending on how fast you can play the class and move around with the class, reduces the time from pack to pack or monster to monster. If you can sustain real high speed and keep doing that forever, it obviously improves your efficiency. Number 2, damage per second. This explains itself. Throwing out various skills, you deal different amount of damage in combination with skill damage, skill animation speed, skill cancels, AoE size, and skill amount of hits. Having said this, I do also think it's important to tell people that playing Succession Lahn is kinda easy to reach the ceiling of what you can do. I have the best guide here on YouTube to allow you to do the most you can ever do if you want to play Succession Lahn. So let me introduce the class for you. The Succession Lahn is one of the assassin classes in Blackdesertonline. She uses a pendulum to defeat her foes. Throwing and spinning it around in combination with kicks makes all of her enemies meet their doom. She is one of the classes at the current state that can fly around in a really good way that makes her really fun to play. Her smoothness in how she moves around and flows with different skills makes her extremely enjoyable and chill to play. Not really having to focus too much on what to do, just do it. It's really easy on the hands if you like chill gameplay. I definitely recommend the Succession Lahn. Aesthetically wise, she is amazing, probably one of the best all-around developed classes in the game. So without further ado, let's check out the Succession Lahn's pros and cons and what it means. So what is it that makes the Succession Lahn really good? Damage per second is really high on the Succession Lahn at its current state. She usually doesn't have any issues killing any monsters. The only reason why I don't put max points here is because she has mediocre burst damage. The skill damage is high, semi-melee wide AoE, movement and positioning works quick, so you can focus on back attack faster. The mobility on the Succession Lahn is really good, usually just attacking your way forward or flying big distances. The Salpuri engage helps moving into different packs easier, or with faster Ice of Blood, being able to hack your way forward. She is not the fastest class in the game though, and she could run out of stamina if you move around too much. Succession Lahn protection, meaning super armor, forward guard, skill range and movement is very high. She usually don't get hit unless you take damage from AoE, and whenever you do get hit, usually you find yourself in protection, either super armor, forward guard or iframe. Important to mention here is that Succession Lahn has a infinite PVE iframe that you could spam fighting PVE monsters without getting hit. The sustain of the class is really high as well, being able to recover VP and HP fighting monsters. Usually you don't really need to think about anything unless you fight really strong monsters, or monsters that have big AoEs. The way you play the class is very important as well, but if you do follow my best guide here on YouTube, you won't have any issues. Moving into the bad things about the Succession Lahn. The tankiness of the Succession Lahn is somewhat that reminds me of a fish in an oily barrel, very slippery. I know it doesn't really make any sense, but that is what you gotta be. If you get hit, and you stay down. Succession Lahn is one of the most squishiest classes in Black Desert Online. How you play it is a huge factor if you want to stay alive. If you face tank with this class, you're dead. Using her mobility in combination with her protections and good timing makes you play like a god, and you are not going to die. Speaking about the gameplay, it is easy to play, it has lower APM and somewhat of a smaller skill chain compared to other classes. There is a skill ceiling, but to be real honest, if you watch my guide and you really like playing this class, you don't really have any issues. You're gonna reach the full capacity after just a few days of playing it. Understanding the timing and the gameplay is a little bit more tricky though. But this is also a thing you will learn by doing. Just keep on playing and it's going to be perfectly fine. So how do I categorize the Succession Lahn in PvE? Early gameplay, I categorize the Succession Lahn as a S tier class. Mid gameplay, I categorize the Succession Lahn as a S tier class. End game, I categorize the Succession Lahn as a S tier class. So where do I categorize her in PvP? For capped large-scale PvP, I would say that she does have a function of flying in and flying out, sniping enemies, and that works really good, especially if you have that timing. Even taking care of rebuilds, that would be pretty good. For uncapped large-scale, she would do perfectly fine as well. Might not be the best class for his function, but if you're allowed to play it, have fun, why not? For small scale, either cap or uncap, she is really bad. Biggest reason why is because your enemy is going to single target you to be the focus of attention, and you're going to have to damage trade to win most of the fight. Even though you might do some damage, you are also one of the most squishiest classes in the game. Most of the times you're going to lose the damage trade. Without a grab, it makes it really hard to win against classes that do. Most of the times when it comes to PvP, it does depend on which guild you are in, if you're going to be placed in the Flame Tower or regular defense, or if you get allowed the freedom to skirmish around in flex. Improvement suggestions and future gameplay. Looking at the current state of the game, the Succession Lahn is perfectly fine where she is, but there is a few things that worries me. Playing the harder content in BDO and getting hit can many times kill your Lahn. The thing that keeps you alive is moving around and not getting hit, while killing the monsters before they can hit you. This is also a part of the gameplay and something that every Lahn player has to learn. The reason why it worries me is because as soon as the future harder content gets released, maybe also in combination with monster AoE gameplay, there is no way to be able to kill the monsters before they hit you, and you as a Lahn is going to go from S tier to B tier. The only way to compensate for Succession Lahn being able to do future content would be to buff his DPS, but in my opinion, that wouldn't really be a good idea. In my opinion, I think you could lower the DPS a little bit, but you can increase the tankiness just a small amount. I'm basing the solution in comparison with other classes and in combination of good gameplay development. If your class is only as good as how fast you can kill the monster, but if you get hit you instantly die, it's not really that good game development. The Lahn is supposed to be squishy as an assassin class, but there is limits. That is everything about the current state of the Succession Lahn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got a lot of information from it. Hopefully you want to play the LAN and check out my guide. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, like the video, tell me what you think about it. Is there anything I missed? Leave it at a comment section below, and don't forget to visit us at twitch.tv/TheChilliers. See you guys in the next one.